Hey, everyone, and welcome back to the Crew and New podcast. With us today, we have Miss Margarita, as always, and we've got a very special guest with us. She has wrote a book or two, and she is very, very famous in the OC community. I'll let her introduce herself, but I don't want her to have to say the same thing over and over. So just we'll let you say the same thing over and over, or not, whatever you want to do. Ray, thanks for joining us.
There's so much pressure or not. I don't know.
Whatever you want to do.
I'm Rae Baker. I work in OSINT, Open Source Intelligence. I wrote a book. It's behind me. I do a lot of OSINT work. I do a lot of volunteer work. I'm a private investigator. I work for case scenarios, making OSINT scenarios to train people. And that's it, I think.
That
Did I
was
forget anything? I'm terrible at talking about myself. Even at work, like I'll send my resume to people and they'll be like, no, let's add some more stuff to this.
you forgot about the graphic design, and that really is
Yeah.
huge because you are really talented in like designing things.
Yeah,
For
it's a
example,
weird,
I
it's
designed this earlier
you
totonight.
did.
Nowhere near as good as you would have done. I'm
Wait,
sorry.
talking about graphic design, do you still have your portfolio up? Is it still like you still check?
Uh, I don't know. I think I stopped paying for it. It was a website I took down, but yeah, it's a weird thing. I talk about it as like motivation for people mostly. Like you can go from this to that. You can switch careers. I did it when I was like 30, I can't do math. 30 something, 33. Um,
I'll be there
so
soon.
so I use that as kind of like an example, but on the flip side, it's weird because as soon as you say something like that, there are people in tech who go, "Oh, she's not a tech person." There's a judgment too. So I say it, I don't care if people judge me, but there is that judgment that some people have.
What do you think that
Yeah.
is?
Because there's people in the field who have this very rigid view of what people can do and how they have to get there. And if they went to school and they started out in high school wanting to do IT or tech or whatever, and then they go to college and they do it, they've done it a very specific way and they're proud of that way. And if you deviate from that and I got into it very quick. So I started in 2019, I got a job within the year, so I think that's intimidating to some people when people take like an alternate like diversion into the field. They're like, oh, well, you didn't put in the work I put in. So
Yeah,
Margarita
I
and
think
I
I
are
can
both
understand
sorry.
because when I was going through my journey, I always saw two different kinds of crowds. It was either the crowd that said you can definitely break in. You can break in from
yeah.
whatever, wherever you at. And then there it was those that were like, no, you need to go back and get an IT support job first. And
Yes.
then from there, get that first cyber job, and then from there pivot. And then I felt like I didn't know what to do, like who was right, or is there just different paths? But it took me a while to find out that there is different paths, like you said.
Yeah. And I don't think that's bad advice to be like, oh, prepare to get an IT support job. In fact, that's what I was doing. I went back to school with a goal of going into a bachelor's in security, something. But I was like, this is going to take forever and I need to have a job. So I'm going to start with an associate's degree that rolls into the bachelor's. So at least I can be working in the field while I'm getting the bachelor's. But as I was in my associates, I was doing talks and blogging and all that. My job reached out to me on the internet and asked me to apply. So that I feel like that's a weird circumstance. It doesn't always happen that way. So I was preparing for the other the other route in, but it just so happened to fall into place that I didn't have to do that. I continued on with the bachelor's, but yeah.
We work a lot with veterans, first responders, underrepresented minorities trying to break into the field of cybersecurity. We find that, and I say we, I should be speaking for myself when I say this, there's that cyber heat map that we've all
Yeah.
seen where there's 750 million jobs, or exaggeration there, but for cybersecurity analysts. And then when you go down and you actually look at those jobs, it's just one of the check boxes that are in there. Um, and it seems like you did phenomenal with getting in really, really fast, and obviously you worked hard for that.
I think it was marketing, right? So my background was design and I worked in a marketing team for 15 years. So I just naturally go into that. I need to market myself. I need to put a blog out. I need to get people to know my name. And I was thinking that as I was doing it, I need to create an identity. Not that I'm not being myself, but I'm creating this like online identity connected to a username. I use the same colors, the same voice when I'm talking like on in blogs and on podcasts and stuff. So I tried to make this like cohesive personality online um, that would sell me as an OSINT person. Even if I wasn't an expert, I wanted to like appear like an expert so people would start to believe I was. So that's where the blogs and the talks came in because nobody's ever going to feel like they're an expert, or some people might, I don't know. But I was never going to feel like an expert. I still don't. So like that was my way to gain legitimacy in the field. If I can talk about it, if people believe me when I talk about it, then I am an expert.
Okay, so building your brand,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah, that's what it
Yeah,
was.
no, I totally understand. I think I'm in that process as well. And coming from a background, similar background to you, I think for me, when I was transitioning in, I didn't want to really like share that I had like marketing experience or I did some design as well. Just because I attributed that as I didn't want, I guess, people to see me as, oh, she's girly. She did design. She did
She's not in tech.
marketing.
She's not
That's
a tech
cute.
person.
That's
Yeah.
cute, right? I wanted them to take me seriously, so I would try to just kind of like not mention that, but I would still do those roles like marketing and
Yeah.
stuff. So, but it's good to hear. I like hearing your story just to see how it worked for you and how
It,
it does work, and you worked hard for it.
and it's funny how much those old roles fall into the new roles. Like, so my last job, I worked at Empire Beauty School. I worked in the corporate office. I was like a corporate designer. I worked there for a very long time. Prior to that, I went to tech school because I hated high school. So instead of going to like college prep classes, I went to tech school and I picked what I thought would be super easy. My mom was a cosmetologist. I was like, yeah, I'll do cosmetology. So I did that. I hated it. I didn't like touching people. It was weird. And then I ended up getting a design job making textbooks for cosmetologists. So I was in the education industry designing these like full 900-page textbooks and all the design for all the schools. There's like 80 some schools. So I was in the education industry doing design from the cosmetology that I had just taken on a whim in high school. And then when I got my OSINT job, I'm doing educational stuff, doing boot camps and things like that, putting that knowledge into OSINT and the marketing background and all of that. So it's just like kept rolling. So I wouldn't ever be ashamed of what you've done because I do think it's super applicable to what you do now and actually makes you more valuable because like people are always asking me to help with slides or like, oh, your stuff looks great. Let's put that up there. You're great at doing this and that. And like it's a benefit, I think, um, that
So you
makes you
do help
stand
with
out.
slides? You do help with slides?
I do. I have a thing where I like if it looks bad, I have to,
Oh my
and
God,
you
I feel the
probably
same way.
understand.
I feel the
To
same
a
way.
fault, I will have to make it look better.
Okay, well,
Yes,
I
or if
mean, if I just send you stuff to look at, then
No,
maybe it would
no,
be like
don't say
no,
you would
don't
be
say
no.
you feel
anything.
obligated to look at it.
And that's what's hard about making my own presentations because I spend so much time on the slides themselves that it just makes like some people just slap like a presentation and they want to talk more than they care about the slides. I'm the other way around. I'd rather show it all than spend an hour talking because I feel like I'm more of an introvert. And if I
Mhm.
could just hand you my presentation and be like, here you go, and walk away, I'd be happy.
It's crazy you say that too, because like so many, and I'll just say O centers, but so many O centers are introverted and do sit in the corner and do stuff.
Yeah.
I just don't see that being you. I mean, you just seem so bubbly and so cheerful, and but again, it could just be this persona, that the costume that you put on when
It,
you're
it It
Mhm.
is, and I suppose you could call it like masking almost. So when I started going back to school, I had very young kids at the time. I think I had just given birth to the one like that year, and and then I had a 2-year old. So I was pretty young. I mean, they were pretty young, and I was like, I'm not making any money as a graphic designer, and I've been doing it for a long time. It's not going to go anywhere. I'm not going to suddenly start making $100,000. I was like, I'm paying for school out of my own pocket. I need to make this worthwhile. So I need to do all these things that terrify me, however I can. And when I was in high school, I would skip days where there was a presentation or something like that. I would fa straight up fail classes if I had to give a presentation. I would just not go. I wouldn't do it. I was like, uh, and when I started going back to school, I was like, I need to do this thing because it terrifies me. So every year I would pick something for my New Year's resolution that would terrify me. So I'm gonna do a presentation. I'm gonna go to like a B-sides, which was my first presentation was at Harrisburg B-sides, and I'm gonna give a presentation. And I did it. I was terrified. But I did it. And they were super supportive. They like stood behind me and asked me easy softball questions, and it was great. But I did that consecutively. Every year I pick something else that's like completely out of scope of my life. Like that's how I wrote the book. The one year I was like, I don't, what do I do? That's crazy. And I was like, well, I'll try and write a book and not thinking that I will ever actually do it. But then it's like everything just aligns somehow. And I don't know. I feel very lucky or like in the right place at the right time. But I'm super
So
introverted. I mean, I don't leave my this is my this is my safe space.
safe space.
Yeah.
Could you share a little bit with us about how you got interested in OSINT? Because I know you told us about your design time, and then
Yeah. Uh
how did you
so I
like build the bridge?
yeah, so I'm super into true crime. I don't think that's a surprise for anybody who's seen me talk anywhere. I watch so much and listen to so much that I have to keep a spreadsheet of all the things that I've watched because I forget and I rewatch them. And that sounds very crazy to say out loud. But yeah, I have this giant spreadsheet that I haven't updated in a while, but that just says how much I've watched. And I always wanted to be someone who's like part of that, but I don't think I could be a cop or like a detective or anything like that. So I was always looking for that like way I could get into that. And I wanted to do something more technical because I felt like even though I loved art and I love design and I still do it all the time, I felt like it was too easy for me because I grew up doing art. My dad does art. He was an electrical engineer, but he did before he retired. He always was drawing something or building something. My mom was always drawing and making something. So art was always very easy for me, and that's why I picked it. I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do with my life. I'm just gonna pick art. And it was very easy to get through school and skate by, and I felt like I almost cheated doing it because it was easy. So I wanted to go back and do something that was challenging for me. So I picked security and risk analysis. I didn't know what I wanted to go into at all. I didn't know what OSINT was. I never heard of it. Um, but I went into this full bore. I started up the World Campus Tech Club for Penn State. So that was like part marketing, part trying to be involved. I became the president of that because I was the one who started it up. It was like defunct when I started. Everybody graduated and just like left it. So I used that and I started reaching out to people on Twitter. I was like, I'm started this brand on Twitter, so I know who is who in the Twitter sphere for cybersecurity. So I would reach out to people I knew were like big names, like Jason Street and uh, just random people that I never thought would talk to us. And of course, as soon as you say school, they're like, "Oh yeah." So they would come and they would talk to us virtually. But at the same time, I would get to know them a little bit. So I was kind of building a brand up and like meeting these people that I hoped to like leverage maybe or like get to know better in the future. Not that I don't care about them. I care about all of you. You're all precious snowflakes. I love you all. Um, but that's how I kind of started getting into that. And then I had met Patrick Laverty, who came and spoke to us, and he ran the Layer 8 conference in Rhode Island. And he sent us a message and he was like, "Oh, I got some tickets for you and some other people in your club. You can come to Rhode Island and, check out our social engineering conference." And I was like, "Okay, whatever." So I went, and my friend in the club at the time dragged me into this event, and made me play. And it was a Trace Labs event. And I played in this Trace Labs event and I was like in it. I had never heard of it before, didn't know what OSINT was. And they're like, "Oh, you just search online for things." I'm like, "Okay, I got all this." Like, and we came in second. And the first place team was actually my job. So they started watching me after that. We didn't talk there. I didn't really meet them. They just, I guess, asked who we were. And they started following my stuff online. And then, like, a few months later, they reached out and they're like, "Hey, we have this team over here doing like adversarial hunts. Do you want to maybe apply?" And then they helped me fix up my resume and like basically walked me through. So that's how I came into OSINT. It was through
Wow.
Trace Labs, but like again, very like I feel like right place, right time, but it was marketing myself and going to conferences and talking to people. It just happened to be very short span of time.
Wow, that's crazy. That's
Yeah.
like that is like a short span of time. And to think that they were already like watching you,
Yeah, and I had no
keeping
idea.
track of you.
I was just like I was trying to teach myself because I went back from that conference and I was like, "This is awesome. I want to know what this is," because I had been having little chats with people from the club that we were inviting to talk, asking them about their jobs and like what they did, trying to figure out which avenue I wanted to go down in cybersecurity, and that had never crossed my radar. So after I played in Trace Labs, I was like, I was hooked. And I literally went home from there and I sat down and I was like, how do I become an expert in this, or at least look like an expert enough that people will care? And then I think I like revamped my profile and I immediately started like writing blogs to teach myself OSINT because like how else do you learn? I don't know. I would pick somebody that was doing something that I wanted to do and I would kind of emulate them and write a blog. And that's how I got into maritime too. I wrote so many that I ended up like running out of ideas. So I would just go around like, what are people doing? What are they looking at? And I saw some blog on like maritime cybersecurity, and I was like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." And I wrote a blog on it, and people liked it. So I wrote another one, and I wrote another one, and eventually, like, I'm the maritime person now, which is fine. I like it. I love it.
I was gonna say, what makes you like the maritime? Is there anything that sparks your interest about that, or is it just what you happen to fall into, and then you just like got really really good at it? Is was there anything that kind of pushed you that way?
Yeah. Uh, no, I fell into it, and then once I started digging in, I realized no one else was doing it. It just happened to be a weird, like, niche thing that became super important around the time that I started doing it because there, China and everything that was going on, like around
Pasco.
Taiwan, really like ramped up. You had the ship getting stuck in the canal. You had like Russia and Ukraine. So like all of it has been ramping up around the time I started looking into it. So at first it started out as just me finding something that nobody else was talking about and like leveraging that for kind of content. And then once I started doing it, I really got into tracking ships and finding things that other people weren't able to find and like using the patterns of movements to like predict what is going to happen. So it was kind of on a whim. Like I didn't go into it like knowing what it was, and then it just blew up and I really enjoy it.
Wow, that's crazy. No, yeah, definitely something different than what everyone else is doing. I don't think I've seen anyone else really sharing um that they do maritime OSINT or anything like that. I think you're the only one I've come across.
Yeah, I think people
Um
do it.
Some
They either
like
can't talk about it or it's very like military. Like less
Or
OCD, more.
they just want to be like you and they're trying their best and they just can't do it.
I
Whatever
don't
that
know. I
might be.
mean,
That was me on the last podcast, but we had to cancel that one because it didn't work out.
oh yeah, okay.
Wait, what? Which one?
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh,
We
okay.
normally have to cancel them because of bad words that I say, so I'm trying to down
Oh,
myself.
yeah. Well, you can
But
just bleep it out.
yeah, apparently I'm not that good at editing.
He's
So
not
Oh,
he's
okay.
not good at editing. Yeah.
Yeah, don't, yeah,
Oh,
don't do that then.
just
I should have disclosed that in the beginning.
yeah, guess is one shot go.
Oh, one shot. Yeah, that's
No,
okay.
I'm kidding. I edit them.
Okay. Right.
We'll edit that out. Just we'll.
Okay, okay. I Yeah, the maritime thing is cool. I did not expect it to take off like it did. Like even at my job, I'm like one of the few maritime people that do that sort of thing. And it's really interesting, the stuff that comes across my desk that I cannot tell you about, but just trust me
Obviously.
that it's very interesting.
Oh, yeah. But that makes you that you're valuable to them, very
Yeah,
valuable.
but
They
it
can't
puts
just
me
be
on
like,
edge. Like, at what point is it gonna not be valuable anymore? And then I gotta find something else.
Right. And while it is of value, now is a perfect opportunity to have them send you to amazing conferences. Like,
Yeah.
for example, there is a conference coming up in
Mhm.
October. I
Yes.
don't know if anyone's heard of it.
What is this conference?
It is called Osmosis Con. Um,
X.
yes, it is Osmosis X. And you can go to osmosisinstitute.org, join the association, the Osmosis Association. We got one, two, three members right here in this room right now with this little podcastery. And then once you join the institution, you can sign up to go to the conference in person. Maybe if you hit up Margarita, she might be able to get you a virtual pass. I don't know. But
For free.
yeah, yeah, well, I mean, she's got that power because she is the official title. I say MC,
Master
but
of Ceremonies. That's the official
MC?
title.
there you go.
Oh, wow.
I just put MC. So, but apparently, yeah, yeah. So, yeah. So make sure you guys do check that out if you have an opportunity, because, and again, maybe your company with that value that you have is just going to shoot you on out to Vegas and roll the dice on you.
Me?
That was a dad joke.
Yeah, I don't think so.
That was a dad joke.
I don't think so. Does your chair say Mrs. Osint? Is that for me, or is that are
No,
you
that's
Mrs. Osint?
no, no. See, I am. Figure out how to spin the right way. I am. Ow. I am Mr. Osint, and Margarita just never joined
Oh,
in the
okay.
studio where we're at right now. This is not a green screen. This is definitely a studio.
Okay, and you're in the same place.
Well, she didn't come tonight because she
Okay.
was
Okay.
out on business travels or
But
something.
that's her chair if
It is
she
if she were
was
to
not
be
on
here, and
travel.
if you wanted to join us in the studio, we would make a chair for you. It would say like Mrs. Marytime or Mrs. Um, Baker or whatever you want to call it. And we make you a chair. Um, I don't actually do
Okay.
the chair making.
Okay.
We
You hire out.
Mild Lion Consulting, an
Oh
organization.
my gosh.
So
Yeah.
we'll do that. We'll talk off camera for that. But Margarita was a president of this company for a little while, and I was very proud of her for doing all the strong work that she did.
Apparently, I was president of a company I didn't even know, but
Oh, okay.
You had business cards.
yeah, I do have a business card. Actually, I think it's right here.
You have it with
Wait, can
you?
I show the business card?
Of course you can. Of course you can. I mean, might as well.
Okay, I want to make sure it's like nothing on here you don't want me to share with the
I don't
public.
have anything to do with this organization.
Okay. Oh, you can't even see it because it's gonna blur it out. Can you see it? This
Oh,
one is
Whoa,
yeah, there you
that
go.
is
on business
cool.
card.
What does it say? President. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, but not anymore though.
Yeah, I know. I know. What? Yeah. Well, I don't know. Yeah, maybe I don't know if you can say where you're working now, but she's working somewhere near and dear to all of our hearts. Um,
Yeah.
she did get scooped up pretty
Will,
fast.
okay, I'm not working yet, so
But we'll hold this until you get actually hired and officially
And then
onboarded,
it will be
and then
accurate. Yes.
then we'll release it. How's that
Yeah.
sound? Sound
sounds
Yeah.
good.
better?
Job hunting is not fun. It's not, It's
It
not an
is not
easy thing.
fun.
I luckily have not had to do. I've been where I work for 4.5, 5 years, and I hope I
Wow.
never have to. I never had to do it, right? Because they came to
So,
me. So like I'm always wondering, like, what if they cut me loose one day? Like,
oh my goodness.
what are
So
my options?
talking about job hunting, what's since we're talking about, getting into OSINT, what is like some advice you would give to people who are probably listening and they're probably like, how do I do it? Like, what would be your advice if you could do it again?
I always give the advice, brand yourself. Always. And people hate it. They don't want to do it. I feel the pushback every time I mention it because it's like there's some people who are just not good at it or they feel weird about talking about themselves or making like a brand around themselves, but like 100% it will help you. There's nothing that it can do to hurt you. But if I'm a company, I am hiring, I want to know what I'm going to get, right? And what do I have to look at? I have your resume, I have you when I meet with you. But if I don't know anything about you, is that enough to sell it? But if you have a brand, if they can go on and look at your blogs, your videos, proof that you know OSINT, because what is the proof? Like, okay, you get a certificate. There are some certificates out there, but are they at this point, does everyone accept them as like a certificate that proves that you know OSINT?
There's a
Not quite
certification that
yet.
I know of.
There are, and they're building up and they're becoming more known. But at this point,
It's the Wild
companies
West.
do not always recognize them or have ever heard of half of them. So, I mean, putting certifications on your resume is obviously good. I mean, if you can afford them, if you can do them, that's going to help. But to bolster that, have other proof that you know what you're doing. And how you can do that is I've given a talk at DEF CON or Osmosis, or I've written a blog on XYZ and they can go and read it. People trust you in the field. You have 5 million followers and half of them are like big names. Like that all stands out to companies when they're trying to hire you. So that's always my biggest advice. I don't know how many people actually follow that advice, but
I think the branding thing is awesome. I mean, like I would do for me, like I would do my hair a certain color and just like that would be my
yeah,
brand. Like so people would
yeah,
realize me
there you
to
go.
be like the guy with the cool hair. No, but I mean everything that you said is like I'm like looking at Margarita and it's like that's kind of what you did, which was awesome. And I never even thought of that. So kudos to both of you for that.
Yeah, I mean, some people it comes more naturally too, especially if
Not
you
me.
worked
Yeah,
in
Definitely not me.
marketing. But
yeah.
yeah,
It,
there are people who resist it, and I feel like not always, but sometimes it takes longer to get a job because you have to prove yourself in other ways. And if you are not a good interviewer, then that hurts you too. But if you have all this other proof, then sometimes they can look past that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I can understand. I think for me, the idea came when I would talk to recruiters and they would say, well, I really feel like you're selling yourself short. They're like, oh, your resume doesn't reflect you, your personality. Like, you're very different when we talk to you. Like, you need to put that on your resume. And I'm just like, how am I gonna
How
like,
how do you put that?
right?
Yeah.
Like how do I even get to even talk to like a recruiter? How do I get past that point? And like you were saying, a lot of people were telling me, oh, just do a blog and just share like do walkthroughs or whatever. And I would go and look at walkthroughs, but I would tell myself, I find that kind of boring. Are people going to want to look at this if I do
Yeah.
it? Like it felt repetitive, so I told myself, but what can I do to make it fun or like I guess more interesting? That was my mindset. I wanted to be more interesting. So that's where I came with the idea of building my site and kind of adding some like fiction to it and like storytelling because I like to
Yeah.
tell stories.
And it
So
has to be
that's where the
fun.
idea
Yeah.
yeah, that's where the idea of Mrs. Osint came. And I grew up always fascinated with like investigation and crime. I grew up playing the Carmen Sandiego games
Oh
or
man, I loved Carmen
remembering,
Sandiego.
right? Those were the best. Or like remember watching Harriet the Spy, or those were the things that as a child I like really drew my attention. So I was like, I want to make this kind of like fun because I want you to want to come to my site and stay and not be like, boring walkthrough. Like, let me just, because I will just like scroll through them. It's horrible, but I'm like, oh my gosh,
Oh
I
yeah.
gotta grab their attention. Um, oh my God, why you gotta bring up my blog? It's like
But
my
I
No,
main
it's
think
all right.
I
gig
think
right
you make a
now.
good point. I think you make a good point. And a lot of the people I talk to and mention like starting a blog or something, they push back like I don't have anything new to say. And, yeah, everybody's done it. And even I, when I'm going to write something, I might look around and see if anybody else has written anything. And if it's really good, I'm like, why? I can't write better than this. Why would I even try? But the way social media works, and you know this, the way the internet works is the newest thing gets kind of the most attention, right? So if somebody wrote a blog a year ago and it was very popular, that doesn't mean that yours, if you put out nearly the exact same thing with your little spin on it, is not going to be just as popular. Because, first of all, it's your voice, it's your input, your view of things, which is not the same as mine or Will's or, whatever. But it's a content machine. It's always churning and stuff is falling off and new stuff is coming. And that's also the hard thing about this is if you want to stay relevant, you got to keep putting out content.
Yeah, that's one thing I was thinking about, like, oh my God, having to stay relevant. Um, but I also want to support other people coming in because I want other people to be,
Yeah.
but trying to stay relevant and
That's my
yeah,
that's my
it's
deep dark fear is like every time I don't put something out for a little while, I'm like, people are not gonna remember who I am. Which is
yeah, I
it's just
mean,
stupid. I mean, maybe in like 5 years or something, but I mean the
when
OSINT
you
community
do
is small, but
when you do put out content, do you really think about it? Because like one time I tried to force myself to write something for a CTF a friend asked for, but I was forcing myself to write something just to say I did it, and I just couldn't do it because I'm like, it's not me. It's just I didn't feel it.
sometimes I
I feel like
sometimes I
I'm
will
guessing
to
what you're
get something
talking
out.
about right now. Is it me you're talking about?
Yeah, you. Mhm.
It is. All right. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I Yeah, I mean, I will force myself to do it, but I force myself to not look at it too much. So if I have an idea, I'll give myself a time frame, like, okay, I need to get this done by the end of the weekend. I know what I want to say, and I'll just bang it out and read over it one time and then push it out. Because I'm somebody who will like obsess over, oh, this sounds stupid. Oh, I'm gonna take this out. And if I don't like push the baby away, I'll spend forever looking in it.
I'm sorry. I was looking, I have a calendar directly here and I'm thinking, I'm the same way as that. Like, I don't want to say it. I call it procrastinating. You call it
Mm.
getting work done because you get it done. But I'm the opposite of that. I seem to work better under pressure.
Oh,
We've
I
got,
do too.
yeah, well, I got to sometimes. I mean, you got to get it done or it's
Yeah.
goodbye.
Oh
So
yeah, he'll be
the
like,
20th,
it's due in 10 hours. I'm like, what?
yeah, the 20th, we have a CTF again coming up. It's the last one before osmosis, and there's like $4,000 worth of prizes that are given out. So I'm like,
Oh,
it's
wow.
we've got sponsors, we've got all kinds of stuff, and I'm like, okay. So I pulled it up today, and I've got all these different plans and stuff, and I'm like, how can I put this into a concept that works? And I got one challenge done so far, and I'm like, okay, so if I did, and of course, they don't have to be huge. I mean, it doesn't have to be huge. I mean,
CTFs are hard.
oh
They're
my God,
they're
they're so hard. They're
hard
so much
because
fun
it's
to
a
play.
different kind of thinking than telling a story. Even though it's telling a story, but you have to also think of the ending of the story like, at the same time and figure out how are people going to go through it.
And the
Because when we're
last
doing
time,
case stuff, it's the same way. It's like mind bending.
yeah, and
So
you
is it
guys
like
do.
working backwards or?
Sort of front and back at the same time.
Oh,
Because when you're designing something, you have to think about how they're going to go through it, how you want them to go through it, because there's so many different ways to go through a thing.
wait,
I,
now that
I
you
don't
brought
want
it
to mute
up,
you. I don't want to mute you, Margarita. I do not want to mute
wait,
you.
we're talking about Ray. This is
No, no, you
frightening.
please. We're talking together. We're a group.
I think what I'm gonna do this time is every challenge or every flag. Okay, so I would have five challenges a day or five flags that somebody would have to get, and then the next day would open up five more. And after the first 15 minutes of day one, everyone was done with the first five, and I was like, oh my god, this is not good. So I'm trying to bust this stuff out and get more. In lieu of doing that, I think this one is going to be very, very like one flag is going to last. It's going to take you 2 or 3 hours because it's going to lead you to,
Yeah.
hey, here's the next spot. Fall down this rabbit hole, and it's not going to be as easy as just like it's been in the past, going to looking at the page source and pulling up, typing in Control F flag, and then you got it. None of that, no more of that game. We're going to be going websites to all kinds of stuff, and it's going to be like the bonus round for that last one where you had to um, do Morse code, pull audio files using Audacity, and looking at images, going to sites, and then cracking a password. And that's going to be one, but I just don't know how to do it yet.
Yeah. And
But
the
every
weird
one of
thing
it,
is, like, when we're doing the case stuff, the things you think are hard end up being easy for people.
I
And then the
know.
ones you think are super easy, everyone will struggle with.
Yeah, like, and I was in talks of uh, working with this one company, and I don't know if it's going to work out, but very small role, just yelling at a cloud, and I'm still waiting to hear back from them. But it was just that was it, yelling at a cloud. It was part of this quick capture the flag stuff, but made like 30 different audition tapes, and then just still waiting.
I don't know what he's talking about, but I was gonna ask you, Ray.
Does anybody
You
Yeah, of
mentioned
course.
case
ever?
scenarios. How did that start? How did you get that idea? Because I know you
Um,
created it.
that was not my idea. That was Espen Ringstad's idea. So I can't take credit for that. He had worked with another company, developing CTF style like things. They were not scenarios, just questions. Um, and he came up with this idea on the side. He pitched it. They weren't really into it. So he kind of held on to it for a little while. And then we started talking, and maybe like a year after we were talking, he was like, "Hey, I have this idea. I want to do these scenarios that kind of, there's like a storyline. We can do like dramatic stuff. We can do like murder mystery things, like very cool stuff. We'll put it into like a storyline. We'll have questions. They're not like CTF kind of questions, but they're questions that will train people how to do OSINT concepts, but make them like go look stuff up and like learn it themselves. Um, so I was like, yeah, that sounds awesome because again, I love true crime. Like I would love to put a story together and do this. And we're already like educating people with like boot camps and things. So sure. So we put one together and everybody loved it. So we put another one and we just kept building it. I think we have one coming out that he worked on. I didn't work on this one so much, but there's a new one coming out, I think at the end of the month.
Yeah, I was trying
That's a whole new kind of concept. It's
Ooh,
very cool.
sneak
It's
peek.
yeah, it's set up. We're using like a new platform and it looks like you're chatting with somebody and it's very cool.
That does sound cool.
Yeah.
You heard it here first in
Yeah,
this podcast right here.
you did. Yeah. We're
that's good.
always, that's the fun part. We're always looking for like new ways to do things, like new tech ways to do things. Yeah,
Ooh, yeah.
that purple one there, the bounty hunt
Bounty
is the
hunter,
new one.
bounty
Yeah.
hunts. Oh
I
wow.
Oh,
think
that
there's
does
a
sound
little
really kind of
video up. I
cool.
think he put it up on the
Oh, there was. I saw it a minute ago.
Click it.
I will find it in a second.
Yeah, I think it's if you
So
click
just
on
click
that.
that.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Oh, all right. We have. Let me just make sure we have sound. I think we got sound. All right, ready.
I've been looking for someone like you, someone with a certain set of skills. Are you ready for my OSINT
That sounds really quiet, so I'm gonna turn up the turn up the volume just a little bit. Sorry about that. It's like super quiet. All right, try it again.
challenges? I've been looking
Uh,
for someone like you, someone with a certain set of skills. Are you ready for my OSINT challenges?
I feel like it's Neil telling me, "Are you ready?"
Are
That's
you ready?
that
That
looks
was a
Yes,
good. Oh,
pretty
that's our
intriguing.
tease. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, I like it.
We're still working. We're still putting
But
it out. There's no reviews yet.
no, X X X X X. Now I did the I want to say it was the free one.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So the
I
free one was super cool, and I made a lot of that. Um, it was like a true crime
Yeah.
one that was based on real true crime cases.
Mm,
And we had it set up in like, those houses, like when you're buying a house and you can go and click on the 3D thing and like walk through the
Such a
house.
cool
yes.
concept.
We used one of those in the story. So like it was up, a realtor had it up. It was like a big mansion in I think it was Georgia, and it had been up for a while, so we used it, and we ask questions of you as you're walking through the house. So like, solve something that's on the bookshelf or whatever. But then they took it down. So it was up for like a year and a half, I think, and then it must have sold and they took it down. So we had to pull the free one, but it was very good, like marketing, and it was fun to make.
I couldn't get the alarm code. I'm not gonna lie. I tell everyone I got through it, but I couldn't get the alarm code.
Oh yeah, it's really hard to find in the house.
Yeah, I know. I know. I spent hours and hours and hours, and probably days
Oh.
trying to find it, and I couldn't find it. But and I
There's a
didn't want to cheat.
walkthrough. We
Okay.
had a walkthrough online.
That's not doing it. Uh, but
Yeah. It was in
someday
the
we'll go back and do that. Yeah, I see that you have walkthroughs and stuff on here.
Yeah,
Um,
and
we have like community people make the walkthroughs, and then we put their blogs up to like push their names
just
out and stuff.
curious, how long does something like this take? One.
It depends. When we first started doing it, it took longer because we were like experimenting with styles. I did all the graphics. I would
Mm.
do all the videos. There were lots of videos in there. And I'm not a video person, so I kind of taught myself Premiere, Adobe Premiere while I was doing it. So the beginning ones were kind of more of a test. I mean, they're still good, but it was like we've evolved from there. Um, but each one is different. So like we test different skills, we test new platforms. Some have a lot of like AI generated stuff. Some use a lot of like actual voice actors, things like that. So each one has different things because we're always trying to find new ways to change it up. Our idea was to have like a Netflix kind of board of things you could pick based on what you want to learn. So if you're like uh law enforcement, you could go and pick ones that appeal to you as a law enforcement officer or whatever, and you could kind of tailor your learning based on what you wanted to do or what you found interesting. Because some of them are like missing people, some of them are more like detective-y type work. Um, that new one is kind of cybery. So
do we have a
that was the idea. Cover a bunch of
ballpark on when
things.
this one's going to be out so we can be ready?
I
And we
think
don't need an exact
it's
date. Couple months, couple years.
Year,
our
2 months.
marketing person just put out the post yesterday. I think it's September 26th. Don't quote me on
Oh, that's
that.
coming
But
up.
it's very soon. It's done. It's just we're building up marketing to it.
Okay, and you get bundles too. That's good.
Yeah, and they do go on sale for Black Friday. Usually we sell them
Oh,
cheaper.
like it. Sorry, I'll stop sharing screen here. My bad. I just
No, I mean, they're fun to make and people seem to like them. It's a different way to do training. I like the sit down in the classroom sort of deal. I'm not going to knock that. I know you guys do that a lot. Um, but we wanted to do something a little different, and it can be paired with that sort of training. So, you can have sit down in the classroom training, and then in the middle, you can stop and do a part of a scenario that covers what you just taught. We do custom scenarios, so we've done things for schools and like universities and
Oh,
stuff,
wow.
companies. The new one, we actually partnered with Authentic 8, so we're providing silo access, so you can, while you're doing the scenario, you get access to their like silo platform that like I forget what it's like, a VM sort of deal, where you can go in and like safe search and connect to
that's
like China and stuff.
they're a great platform. Shout out to them, sponsor of Osmosis as well.
Yeah, yeah, there you
Um,
go.
But yeah, no, they've got a great tool. I mean, there's a few other ones that have come out since then. We don't have to mention any names of any of them, just in case we are. Yeah, but no, no, like Chasm, for example, I see they're very similar, and I love Chasm. Um, have you used that yet, or?
I haven't, no. I use Silo because they gave me access. I'm working on a
Okay,
podcast
yeah,
with them.
I got it. I
Um,
understand.
so they gave me access to Silo. I don't I don't use Silo for like work or anything. Other teams do. My team doesn't have Silo, but that's the only one I've really used.
Well, when they remove the access, or you're no longer in contract or anything, give Chasm a shot. I mean, it seems
Yeah.
like it's pretty neat, and it's like kind of like Linode, where you can get the free version, or like the $5 a month, and you get 100 credits that just keep coming and coming and coming. Or you can get the
Yeah.
beefed up version. So it's pretty neat.
Yeah, because I do a lot of like Chinese and Russian type work, so like I need something to to do it safely inside.
Yeah, I would imagine that's
Be
important.
anonymous for sure.
And so you take OPSEC very seriously then.
Yes. Yeah, I try.
Come on.
Not as seriously as I should, but I do. I do try to follow guidelines. Nobody hack me, please.
I was doing contract work with a organization, and I was doing social media monitoring on this platform called Gitter. Whether you've
Yeah.
heard of it or not, yeah, yeah. I didn't know if you want to say that you knew what it was, but a lot of Chinese nationals use this platform, and it's not like LinkedIn where when you're clicking on people, it shows who's looking on it. And all of a sudden, I just got my investigative account. I started having all these people of the person that I was investigating start following me, and I'm like, well, this
Oh,
burned, Dina.
yeah.
So and it sucked, but I mean, wasn't too big of a deal. Just crash it, burn it, and hope
It's
they.
getting so hard to like
It
keep
is,
stock
yeah.
accounts going. I used to have a whole bunch and I get attached to them, right? Because like I'm pretending to be them and I pick a name and like, you get to pick who they follow and like what their personality is. Like I had a guy and he was a real pervert. And he followed all these like half naked women and it I had this personality for him and I really got attached to him. He liked boats and he was really into fishing and he got burned and I have to say it's like they die. I feel really sad about it.
You're like, honey,
Well,
Jeff
I'm getting,
died.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
glad I'm not the only one because I feel like when I was making my accounts, I'm like, I'm getting way too into this.
Oh yeah.
And I think
Like, wait, yeah.
my persistent accounts that I've had for years and years and years are the ones that last. Like now, if I need to just make it, I mean, if I try to make a persistent account now, it's gone within a
They're
week or
gone.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
But the ones that I've made like years ago, I still have a few of them left, and I'm so scared to like people always like, hey, you have a sock puppet I can borrow? I'm like, buddy, like I'm down to
No.
a few, and you're my friend and stuff, but I'll help you make a burner real quick, but you
Yeah.
can't have Stein. He's mine.
I had a LinkedIn from when I first started and that got burned because I think it caught the eye placement because I used AI generated picture and then they went through not that long ago and like pulled all the ones with the eyes and the spot in the middle and he was gone. I'll never see him again.
Rest in peace.
Sorry to hear that. It's
Yeah.
sad.
Yeah.
Definitely is.
That's good to know. Um, do we want to wrap this up? I just want to be
Wrap what
respectful of our
up?
time.
Well,
Like
we do want to be respectful of her time and your time,
officially, the recording,
and
yes.
officially, because this conversation will be going on for hours. So yes, we definitely like to end every one of these the Career and You podcast with, anything that you want to say to the three people that will see this podcast. This will probably bring us up to probably like maybe 50 viewers or something.
I don't know.
We'll see. I mean, but obviously, thank you very much for your time. And like I said, just anything in closing that we discussed tonight, or anything that you think is important for people to know. Just anything. It can be anything, like how to make a good pasta. Whatever you want to tell us. Just give us something that's good.
I I think I think what I don't get to say very often, because it's always kind of a weird interviewee sort of situation, and I don't do a lot where it's super casual. Not that you guys aren't professional.
Oh, no,
But
we're really. I mean, yeah, I was wearing a suit earlier. Come on.
you were, yes,
I
you
was told I
were.
had to change. All right, can you
Yes,
note
on
that, please?
camera. Thank you for that.
Yes.
I
You asked me to. I said I could go behind the screen, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, well, I would just say thank you, because I found out recently I've sold 5,000 copies of my book, which is like insane to me. So definitely thank you to everybody who reads my words that I vomited into this book and likes them. Um, because that's why I wrote it. Like I had read a lot of books that I thought would help me when I started, and they didn't like they seem very technical, and I feel like a lot of people fall into that where they read these OSINT books and they're super technical, and then they get frustrated, or like, I'm not a technical person, I don't know what to do with this, or where do I start? And I wanted to just write something that was for everybody, like you calmly, like here's what you're doing, here's why you're doing it, here's some ways you can do it, on to the next thing. Um, and I hope the sales kind of say that people do like it, or at least they bought it before they decided they hated it. But I don't have any bad reviews so far.
You did,
So,
because my mom, I'll tell you, she's 64 years old. Okay. She's been on iPads for the last 15 years. So people don't realize how hard it is to transition back from an iPad to a computer. She had the other book, a name I'm not going to say it. A great author also, but very,
oh
very
yeah, and
technical.
I have all the books. Yeah.
But she could not comprehend that. Got her a copy of your book. She's like, oh my goodness, I understand it. It makes
Oh.
sense. And these pictures are so nice.
Well,
Um,
and I was like, this book has to have pictures because
it's got
that's
to,
the
I mean,
graphic designer in me. Like they want to cut them out, because you can get more pages and more words. And I'm like, no, it has to have pictures. People learn from pictures, so we need
it's
pictures.
getting across the
And
messages.
even if you see I was like, I need to have charts in there of how I investigated everything. And some of them are like super small because I was like, I have to have it in there, cram it in there, turn it
Magnifying,
sideways, stick it in there.
magnifying glasses work fine.
Yeah. But that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to make it like super accessible so that people who were just starting did not feel like they could not be part of the community, and also have things in there for people who have been there for a while, know some stuff, but might not have ever tried like transportation stuff or IoT stuff or crypto stuff. So that was my hope, and it's had good reviews and people are buying it. So I very much appreciate it. I'm ready to write a new one, but they want me to write one that's going to sell 15,000 copies. So I have to come up with an idea for that one.
That's a piece of cake. You'll be fine. You got this.
I don't know. That's a lot of
Yeah.
copies. This has been
Do a lot of
2 years and
pictures.
it's only at 5,000. I mean,
Mm.
only, but
Only. Yeah, that's a
for
lot of
a
books.
publisher, 5,000 is not a whole lot.
Well, you know, the name's getting out there. It's gotten out there. I can remember seeing on Amazon, which is all I know, sold out. So when you see sold out on a book,
Maybe.
it's,
Maybe they only had 5 copies.
well, maybe they did, but it was sold out. Okay. Regardless, I had to wait.
No, but that's pretty much my biggest thing is thank you. If you didn't come to my talks or watch my blogs or comment on my things or buy my book, I wouldn't be, motivated to keep doing the things that I'm doing. And I hopefully the things that I'm doing are helping people feel like they can get into the community and be part of it, because everybody has space. There's space for everybody.
And we
We
will
can all
link
move
all your
aside.
public websites. We won't put your personal number in there or anything like that, but we'll link that to the chat or in the bottom of the description, I think it's called. Margarita will help me with that later.
The description,
The
yes.
description. We'll link
We'll put the show notes
the show
in the
notes,
Show
yes,
description.
notes
Yeah.
in
in
there.
there too. And then, but yeah, no,
You could
thank
put
you.
my number. I wouldn't answer it anyway.
I know you
As
don't
you know,
answer
I
Oh
all
do
my
my
not
calls
take
gosh.
still. I'm
phone
like,
calls.
why won't
Oh
you
my
answer my
gosh.
phone? But I'm gonna
No,
let Margarita
I
get the
don't.
last word in with you. But thank you
Uh,
again, Rae, so much for speaking with us today. Really, really appreciate your
Yeah,
time.
yes.
no problem.
Yes.
And
Thank you, Ray,
Margarita, you
for
want to close this out with anything special?
yeah, I was saying thank you, Ray, for giving us a little bit of your time and sharing with us your journey, and then also giving advice on how others can be part of the community. And I agree with what you said. There's space for everyone here. So
Yeah, absolutely. Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys.
Thanks for having me.
thanks.